Good morning and happy Friday. I'm glad it's finally Friday. And this one's better because I have the day off, so I got a 3 day weekend. Uh, I got Jacob dropped off this morning, and I actually went ahead and ran to Publix after that and hit up their BOGO deals. And I bought some ham steak, and I'll have to run to Walmart. Um, but I'm going to attempt some black eyed peas and ham steak and rice, and I don't know what to put in there. Maybe like canned tomatoes or something. I don't know. Um, Somebody made me a really good dish and then didn't tell me how to make it. So I'm going to see if I can make something good enough that I enjoy it. Who knows? You may like it too, but I'm going to taste test it with myself first, and that way if it's a disaster, I'm the only one that has to suffer. Speaking of suffering, it's not bad. Um, Jacob got me last night. We were wrestling, and I don't know if this will show up on here. Kinda. Can you see where he busted my lip? And it's not bad, but it was bleeding a little bit, and he kept wanting to put a band aid on it. I said, "Boy, you're not putting a band aid in my mouth." But it's the first time he's ever hurt me. That when he did it, he acted sad about it and told me he was sorry. Usually he just laughs. Um, he fell off the couch and hit his head last night, and so I held him, made him feel better. And then a few minutes later, he hurt me, and then he laughed. So we had to have a talk about that, about people's feelings. So this morning, I guess he was still thinking about it because he told me his head still hurt. And then he told me, he said, "We can't tell people they're fat." And I said, "No, we can't." He said, "Because it may hurt their feelings." I said, "It probably would." Anyway, we'll get started with morning and evening. Let's see, today is October 18th. So this verse is from Psalm 65, verse 11. Thy paths drop fatness. Boy, that is a short little verse, and I hope there's some context because I don't remember what that's about. Many are the paths of the Lord which drop fatness, but an especial one is the path of prayer. No believer who is much in the closet will have need to cry. Boy, I keep thinking there's a period and another comma. No believer who is much in the closet will have need to cry, my leanness, woe unto me. Starving souls live at a distance from the mercy seat and become like the parched fields in times of drought. Prevalence with God in wrestling prayer is sure to make the believer strong, if not happy. The nearest place to the gate of heaven is the throne of the heavenly grace. Much alone, and you will have much assurance. Little alone with Jesus, your religion will be shallow, polluted with many doubts and fears, and not sparkling with the joy of the Lord. Since the soul enriching path of prayer is open to the very weakest saint, since no high attainments are required, since you are not bidden to come because you are an advanced saint, but freely invited if you be a saint at all, see to it, dear reader, that you are often in the way of private devotion. Be much on your knees, for so Elijah drew the rain upon famished Israel's fields. There is another especial path dropping with fatness to those who walk therein. It is the secret walk of communion. Oh, the delights of fellowship with Jesus! Earth hath no words which can set forth the holy calm of a soul leaning on Jesus' bosom. Few Christians understand it. They live in the lowlands and seldom climb to the top of the top of the Nebo. It's capitalized as Nebo. I'm assuming that's some mountain or high place. Maybe if we lived in 1800s England, we would know that reference, or maybe you do. I don't. Anyway, few Christians understand it. They live in the lowlands and seldom climb to the top of the Nebo. They live in the outer court. They enter not the holy place. They take not up the privilege of priesthood. At a distance they see the sacrifice, but they sit not down with the priest to eat thereof, and to enjoy the fat of the burnt offering. But, reader, sit thou ever under the shadow of Jesus. Come up to that palm tree, and take hold of the branches thereof. Let thy beloved be unto thee as the apple tree among the trees of the wood, and thou shalt be satisfied as with marrow and fatness. O Jesus, visit us with thy salvation. I don't know why I struggled through that one. I think part of it's just his writing is a little tough for me. But he was talking about just Christians in general, and they take not up the privilege of priesthood. And I assume by that he's not referring to actually going into the seminary and being a pastor or an evangelist, but just being a disciple, and kind of like when the Israelites came out of Egypt, and God was drawing near to them, and he said, I want to make you into a kingdom of priests. I'm assuming it's kind of that mindset. Anyway, I hope you had a good night's rest and you're feeling better. I'm going to take a look at a resource I've used online in the past for looking up Hebrew and even Greek. And we'll take a look at that and see if that's a good option for us going forward. I know we're still a little bit early, but I want to have a plan for us before we get to that point. So anyway, I'll talk to you later. This is the Bible Web app. And even though it says app, it's not like an app you get on your phone. It's just an online web app that you get on your browser. This is a neat tool because you can have things side by side, and you can have more than two panes. It's just once you get 3 or 4 panes, it gets kind of difficult to see it all. But it's neat because you can pick what you want on each side. So like here we go under, and you see there's some Greek options if you want to look at the New Testament, Hebrew. This one that we're on, the Biblia Hebraica, I don't know how to say that. It's German. I've always been told that's the best. So I've never really looked at this Westminster Leningrad Codex. You do have other options for English. There's not a ton of options, but I think you like the King James Version, so that's probably what you would want. If you put the mouse over, it'll highlight on both sides what you're looking at. I've got my screen on dark mode, so it may not be showing up well for you. But on the English side, you'll see when you put your mouse over words, they highlight, and if you click on it, it'll give you that 3-letter Hebrew root and the definition. Sometimes they'll give you parts of speech. It just depends on how nuanced the word is, like what kind of information you get. Sometimes there's more details, sometimes there's not. And then you'll see where it'll highlight when it's the same word being used, it'll highlight each word in that verse. So, yeah, right here, Genesis 1:1. So this first word is actually kind of notoriously a difficult word to translate. It's the only time this ever shows up in the Hebrew Bible. We can kind of break it down. So this bait at the beginning, that's a prefix. As a prefix, that means like in, by, with, at, maybe around, that kind of idea. But Resh, Aleph, Shin, and I know you haven't learned these 2 letters yet, but this is Rosh, if it's a 3-letter root. So Rosh, you may recognize that from Rosh Hashanah. We talked about that. So Rosh is like head, top, beginning, that kind of idea. And there's one little dot at the bottom. That's it. That's the really sharp E leading into a yod, which is being used as a vowel. So this is Bereshit. Bereshit. So in, at, around, the head of things, the beginning. So, traditionally we translated it as in the beginning. That's close enough. But with the form of this word, no one 100% agrees on exactly the literal translation. Bara is create or created. And here's God, Elohim. So if you were talking about like a different culture that, they might have multiple gods, if you're talking about one particular God, it would just be these first 2 letters, Aleph, Lamed, El. When it's Elohim, that's plural. But that is always how the Hebrew God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the God we worship, that's always how our God is referred to in the Hebrew Old Testament. It's this plural Elohim. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted you to see that we got this tool. This might be good to use as we move into looking at verses. We'll find some of the easier verses to translate. But this way I can show you the Hebrew I'm looking at. And we do have the option of coming over here and clicking on some things. Hoshech. That's hard to say. I'll tell you how I remember that word. You have to find creative ways. So Hoshech is darkness. Well, Hoshech kind of sounds like hose shack. And when do you go to your hose shack? When it's night. Now, is that a great thing to teach little kids trying to learn Hebrew? No. But when I was in college learning Hebrew, that's how I remembered it. And I have never forgotten because that just sticks with you, or it does with me. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this tool. I imagine this is something that we will be looking at unless you can find something better. I don't know if you want to do any research, but I'm open to suggestions. Anyway, we'll end it here.